Welcome, everybody, to the very first episode of Conversations with Cal. I'm your host, Cal Denicky. I'm here from St. Petersburg, Florida, checking in from my basement. And we have a very special guest today. We have Mr. David Bracey with us today on audio. So, David, glad to have you, longtime friend. We want to talk a little bit about life, a little bit about basketball, a couple different things. So, if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself, tell us a little bit about who you are, how old you are, where you're at, and we can talk a little bit about how we met and how long we've known each other, and then get into it from there.
Absolutely. Yo, so grateful to be on the inaugural episode of Conversations with Cal. Bam, 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 bam. My name is David Bracey, a longtime friend, even longer time fan of Cal. Um, and just super excited to be a part of the program tonight. Coming to you live from St. Louis, Missouri. Feeling good, getting excited about the upcoming NBA playoffs. We're going to be talking about a whole bunch of stuff tonight. So, I mean, I don't even know where to begin, but this is your episode. I mean, I just got to say I'm just so grateful to be on right now. I'm so excited.
For sure. So, for those that don't know, David and I grew up in a little college town called Macomb, Illinois, where we knew each other since we were very, very young. Grew up playing basketball together, running around at each other's houses, and our families knew each other. And it's been a journey. I mean, from the mid 2000s till now, we've had a lot of great experiences together and have kept in touch throughout the years. And I think the love of the NBA has really kept our bond going from post high school till now. In a small town, you've got people who stay in touch and people who don't, and I'm glad to have David as a friend, and I'm just grateful for all the things that we share in common and have been able to keep in touch over the years. If you want to maybe just add on to a few more things, then we'll get into the first question.
Wow, I'm over here getting teared up. That was I don't know. There's nothing I can say that will top what was just said. I mean, he gave you the whole 9 yards. I mean, yeah, I've known him forever. We've been through just about everything. I mean, and this guy loves the game more than anybody I know. So, like I said, it's just such an opportunity to be able to hop on here and catch up with him and chop it up with him and everything else. So yeah, this has been a long time coming, and we dabbled in the podcasting a little bit during the pandemic, but we're back now. There's been a little bit of a hiatus, so we're getting back into it.
Yeah, coming on about a little less than 3 years ago, we did some Instagram lives and caught up and grabbed the attention of a few people. And for David and I, it was just talking like we usually do. And it was cool to see the outreach from some people to say, like, oh, I like what you guys are talking about. And we talked about a lot of different stuff at that time. But today we're going to mostly focus on basketball. So we'll get right into it. Intros are good. The thing I want to talk about first, David, is the three biggest storylines from this NBA season. So starting in September when training camp rolled around until now, I'll just go in order for what you think the most important or biggest storyline was, and then I'll kind of pick your brain about each of them. So, what's one thing that has been a huge storyline for you this NBA season?
I mean, a huge storyline for me, of course, has been the whole situation with what was at one point in time the greatest three players ever put on one roster, and it's currently a combination of several teams leftovers. No disrespect to Mikal Bridges, that guy can ball, okay,
Bucket
but
getter, certified bucket
absolute
getter.
absolute bucket getter, but we know exactly who went to Phoenix, and that is a bad man, as Stephen A would say. That is a very bad man. Okay, that is the definition of a bucket getter. And so, I mean, I definitely got to start off with that whole situation. Seeing Kyrie in person with Luca, they look incredible, but right now they're 2-5. I don't know what that's going to look like in the playoffs. We know those dudes can get buckets, but can they play defense? And then as far as Phoenix goes, oh my God, man. I mean, KD on that roster, he looks incredible. Devin and Kevin, I mean, can you get more mid-range jump shots? I doubt it. But outside of those two guys, who can you really count on to get a bucket? So for me, the biggest storyline has got to be what ended up happening to the Brooklyn Nets and what happens with those two players, respectively, Kevin and Kyrie, going forward on their two different teams.
Yeah, that was my biggest thing. It was just New York basketball in general. We'll talk about the Knicks
Absolutely.
later, but and for a good note, the Nets had so much promise going into the year, and to see what has spiraled through that entire season. We could talk about Kyrie in his own episode, but I I'm a little happy, to be honest, to see what the Nets have done with Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, and just the fresh slate. I got to watch them the other night, and as you said, Mikal Bridges has just been putting on a show. It's cool to see him get buckets a little bit at a higher level than he could in Phoenix, just with everyone in front of him. So yeah, the Brooklyn story has been pretty crazy, but I think both sides ended up coming out pretty well afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, in the immediate, you were like, wow, they lost Harden, then they lost Kyrie, and now they've lost Kevin. And now you're kind of looking at it like, I mean, you can't ever replace those kind of guys, but Mikal Bridges, I mean, he's no joke. Cam Thomas, that guy can get buckets. Cam Johnson, another Cam. How many Cams can they have? I mean, seriously, they got an interesting young roster now, and I like it. It's good for New York, and like you said, it's not the only team in New York to root for, so that's good for more reasons than one.
Okay, so you got Brooklyn number one headline. What's another storyline you've been intrigued with this year?
Well, due to my close personal affiliation with one of my good friends, Brad Harden, who covers the Atlanta Hawks, um, one of the biggest storylines for me has definitely got to be the situation with Trey Young. Definitely, I mean, obviously, I don't think it's a secret to say that he played a large role in this dismissal, the mutual separation, whatever you want to call it, of Nate McMillan. That's the second coach now that Trey Young has watched walk out the door. Maybe he was happy about it, maybe he wasn't. I mean, we'll kind of leave that to the beat writers to discuss. But that situation to me is something to really monitor because now they brought in Quinn Snyder, who is a no joke around coach, which is very interesting. I'm very curious to see how that pairing kind of goes. So far, it seems to be meshing pretty well. But it seems like the sun could be setting on Atlanta, and if the Trey Young situation gets any more volatile than it already is, I don't know what that's going to mean for that franchise. And for that city at large because I mean, they just got basketball. Like we know what Atlanta basketball was before Trey Young showed up. So I got to put respect on his name, but
Mhm.
some may right down there, boss. Some may right.
And currently the Hawks sit at the 8th seed in the East. And I think 2 years ago, when they made the Eastern Conference Finals, I mean, they turned heads, and you could say, yeah, the Ben Simmons situation helped get them there. But at the same time, they earned their stripes and they made it that far. And I think it's just been a disappointment from how they surprised everyone by getting there to where they're at now. And Trey Young isn't someone that I put on my list for storylines, but is definitely talked about in NBA circles. So I'm glad you brought that up. And who knows? I think that Hawks team has a lot of talent. John Collins, Trey Young, Okongwu. I just like their roster, but it seems better on paper than it does in actuality.
Agreed. Agreed.
So yeah. And what's your third thing that you came up with, and then I'll hit you with my three.
My third thing is going to be the Philadelphia 76ers. All the smoke about James Harden potentially heading back to Houston. I wonder, where there's smoke, there's fire. And we know James Harden is not afraid to start a fire and watch it burn. So I'm curious to see what happens if the Sixers will happen to, burn out maybe early playoff exit. I'm curious what that means for Harden and his decision whether or not to stay, what that means for Embiid long term. Looking at another potential postseason failure. Yeah, I'm really watching Philly. I think that they got all the pieces in line to really make some noise in the playoffs and potentially be a true title contending team. I think they already are a title contending team, but to be in that upper echelon of the elite of the NBA. But they got to get it done. So I got to see Harden in the playoffs. I got to see Embiid without some kind of freak injury. There's a lot of what ifs, and I mean that's not even talking about the Doc Rivers coaching curse. So Philly, I'm watching very closely.
I think with Philly, I've always been intrigued with what they could do, but I could never trust the process, as they say, because I just I've never seen it with my own two eyes. I think you and I think you just turned 30. I'm about to turn 29. We haven't seen a ton of success in Philly. You see the clip of Allen Iverson stepping over Ty Lue. We were real young for that. The Andre Iguodala run in the mid 2000s, and of course trusting the process for all those years. But because we haven't seen it, I'm just not sure I can trust what I see yet. What do you think their ceiling is in terms of this season? We know they have a lot of talent and they have the pieces, but what do you think they could ultimately attain this year?
As far as the 76ers,
Yeah, like what do you think their highest ceiling would be? Can they make the finals, Eastern Conference Finals? What do you see with them?
oh yeah, to me, Philly is a championship or bust type of team. Their absolute ceiling is definitely going to be an NBA championship, and you know the floor, in my personal opinion, should be a conference finals. But it hasn't necessarily panned out, unfortunately, for Joel Embiid in his time in Philadelphia, and it hasn't also necessarily panned out for James Harden, really independent of where he's been. So I got to see it. I think that all the pieces are there. I think this is one of the better rosters that they've had around those two guys, especially Embiid. Um, this is his time. You know, I hope that he takes, you know, the MVP snub that he considers he received last year. You know, I hope he still has that chip on his shoulder and he's bringing it into this season and into the postseason, especially if you know who wins his third in a row. I'm sure that will rub him the wrong way. And hopefully it starts a fire that burns him all the way to the NBA Finals because I like Embiid. I like the way that he plays for the most part. And you know, I would like to see the city of Philadelphia get a championship. I think that would be something special. And like I said, I think they got a really good team. I'm a huge Tyrese Maxey guy. He's a Wildcat, you know, so I'm always right on
BK,
my
stand
Kentucky
up.
boys. Straight up. You straight up. You're a Cal, so you get it.
It's funny.
But
I
yeah,
actually had a Louisville blanket in the background on the couch, and I took it off at the last second. And those two are huge rivals, so we won't go there.
we know you're on the right side. Don't worry.
Okay. With that being said, I have three things of my own. You can take them as they are, but New York basketball was number one. We already got into the Brooklyn situation. And as I said, I like what happened with both sides, with Phoenix, with Brooklyn. I like what both teams are doing. But the Knicks, man, the Knicks are, as I said before, turning heads, and they've won several in a row. They beat Boston yesterday, I believe, or sometime this weekend.
Yep.
And without Jalen Brunson, which was very impressive. I think the Knicks lead the league in lefties with RJ Barrett, Brunson, Julius Randle. I don't know what that says, but it's just something noticeable. Lots of lefties out there. Coach Thibodeau, as you and I both know from all those Chicago Bulls days, has been in this league for a long time. So I love what the Knicks are doing. Everyone says basketball is better when the Knicks are good. And outside of that 2013 Melo second round run, we haven't really seen in our lifetimes anything good with the New York Knicks. I mean, we know them for Spike Lee, we know them for a few other things, but what are your thoughts on the Knicks? Because I'm loving what I'm seeing. And they are currently the 5 seed. So they could meet up with Cleveland in the first round. I think that'd be a really fun series.
When it comes to the New York Knicks, I just got two words for you, Cal. Bing bong. Okay. New York basketball is back. This is what the Knicks get for finally stopping their pursuit of a superstar at any cost necessary. They have tried to build a roster with talented pieces that fit, and it looks pretty good. I'm liking what I'm seeing in New York. And I mean, can I get some more Emmanuel quickly? I'll take all the shares I can get. Like I said, I'm a Wildcat homer. So wherever they are, that's where I'm going to be. I'll get all the jerseys I can.
Okay. Tyrese Maxey and Emmanuel quickly came out of Kentucky the same year, and they're both doing very well for themselves. So I imagine sometimes Coach Cal just flipping on League Pass and like how cool that would be every night to see as many guys as he's sent to the league doing what they're doing. It's got to be an amazing spot to be in.
It's awesome. It really is.
Yeah. So the Knicks, I love it. My second thing is the Memphis Grizzlies.
Uh
So
oh.
They were my pick to start the year to go to the finals. I had Bucks and Grizzlies with the Bucks taking it home. I'm going to stick with it. I'm not going to switch up, but as you know, and as the world knows, the Grizzlies have been in the media for the wrong reasons lately with Ja Morant and multiple things happening with him, a 2-game suspension. And it was just fun last year when they were the underdog, the young kids coming at the Warriors and, not taking crap from anybody. And then this year it just kind of spiraled in a way which you don't like to see. But I'm still pretty confident that they're going to make a strong run in the playoffs and hopefully get their stuff together. So, yeah, the Grizzlies just not going in the direction I thought they would. I still love their roster. Ja's one of the most young, exciting players in the league, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they had a first round exit. It's just kind of what I see. What are your thoughts on the Grizz?
On the Grizz, I mean, everything you said, I agree with. They got a talented roster. I love how their player development. I worry about how deep they can actually make it into the playoffs based on what we've seen to date. But they got a lot of talented pieces, and one of them, of course, is John Morant, who is an incredibly talented player. The flip side of that coin is that when Garatata Ja is up in the club trying to be Ja Wick instead of Ja Morant, okay, then there's going to be problems. And this is his behavior just continues to escalate. I really do not understand how this guy doesn't know how to read the room, to kind of put it poetically. Um, I've read there was a piece by Vince Goodwill where he was talking about how AI walked so John Morant could run. And while I may not always agree with everything that Vince has to say, I thought that statement alone, was, I mean, it's kind of poignant. Like this is not the first time, unfortunately, that we've seen this story in the NBA and in pro sports. And fortunately for John Morant, it seems that he has a group of people around him in that organization, in the league, who are trying to look out for his best interests and are working with him to, get him back on a path to wellness or recovery, whatever that looks like. Because unfortunately, we know how many times this story often goes in a very negative way that results in that player, at a minimum, losing their career. So I hope the best for Ja and everything going on with him. But yeah, he's got to stop. He's got to stop gangbanging. That's a non-starter for the NBA. David Stern would rise up out of his casket right now and take off his belt. I swear he would. So
Hey, well put, well put. Um, my third thing, I'm going to switch it up. I had the Sacramento Kings, and I love the story that's going on out there, but I'll zag a little bit and
light the beam.
light the beam, baby. I want you to talk about Sacramento here in a second as an honorable mention, but for me, the Timberwolves were a really interesting team coming into the year. You hear everything about Anthony Edwards. By the way, he did a phenomenal job in Hustle, the Netflix movie. If you haven't seen it, I just loved his personality. I've gotten to research him a little bit. His dog Ant Jr. is his best friend, which I think is just the coolest thing in the world, and he just adores that dog. They went all in for Rudy Gobert. They gave up pretty much everything to get him in terms of the future and some assets. But if you're going to go in for Rudy Gobert like that, I feel like you're saying we need to win now, and they're currently at the 6th seed. If the playoffs started today, they'd actually play the Kings, which I think would be an intriguing matchup. But I just thought I'd see more out of them. I know Cat's been injured, Gobert's been injured, but I just thought with the move they made to go get an all NBA player like that, I thought they would be a little bit better. And to be honest, I just haven't loved watching them the few times I've seen them. What do you think about the T Wolves?
I think that the decision to make Rudy Gobert a part of their team and what they gave up to get him with time continues to look worse, which is a rare combination of mismanagement for an NBA franchise.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was egregious when it happened, and it's even worse now. And for me, it didn't make sense because you have an incredibly talented big man, and you have a guy who really thrives at getting to the rim and living above the rim. Why are you going to add more bodies around where he needs to be It just never made any sense to me, especially given some of the other options that were out there. I think there was a pretty serious argument for their need for a point guard and a playmaker. That D'Angelo Russell was not a good fit necessarily for what they needed. Can you imagine what they would have looked like with Deontay Murray and Edwards in the backcourt right now for Minnesota? Oh my God, talk about problems. That would be the best defensive backcourt in the NBA, no question.
Mhm.
So mistakes were made. Gobert was not a good fit there. I still think that Gobert is a good defensive player. I still think that he can be a valuable player to an NBA franchise. But in the modern NBA, doing what they did to get that guy, no. But hey, what do you expect from Alex Rodriguez? I mean, come
I'm a Yankees fan, but I was a Jeter guy first, and A-Rod, he's always, I think, rubbed people a certain way. But I don't know. Looking back to that Timberwolves and Grizzlies series last year in the first round, I was just so fascinated with the immense amount of young talent on both sides. Anthony Edwards versus Ja. It was just such a great matchup. It went back and forth. There were 20-point swings every game. And I hope we get to see that in the playoffs this year. Not saying they will match up, but just to see the amount of talent that's in the NBA right now is just so exciting for us NBA heads to be able to, count this season down with 18, 19 games left to go into what should be an exciting playoffs. So yeah, the two things I had for honorable mention were the Kings. Have to give them their props with the 3 seed. I mean, the Kings are what brought me into the NBA world. I can remember 2002 vividly. I was in second grade and I'm laying on the floor in my living room, and Mike Bibby and Chris Webber are going against your guy Kobe and the Lakers, and I just gravitated towards that Kings team. I don't know what it was, but it was my first memory of basketball ever. And I remember getting that Mike Bibby jersey as as an elementary school kid and thinking I was the stuff. And now to see them 20 something years later, like finally in the spotlight, it is cool. And I know you went to Sacramento recently, so tell me a bit about the Kings and what was your experience like out in California?
Oh man, let me sum it up. 3 words: light the beam.
So
Light
I
the
don't
beam.
quite know what that means. I've heard it a few times, but if you could explain to our listeners what's going on out with Light the Beam in Sacktown.
So after every Sacramento Kings home win, they have a laser beam that shoots out of the top of their stadium, and it literally looks like a star destroyer. Like it's crazy, it's awesome, it's nonsensical, it's everything the NBA and the modern world need. We need more laser beams pointed into the sky. Absolutely. I think, well, maybe pilots would disagree with me, but I think the fans would agree. It's a mixed subject. No, man, it's awesome. The Kings got a great team. Mike Brown's a great coach. Again, who's at the helm there? De'Aaron Fox. You know where he went? Kentucky. Okay. There's a theme on this podcast. Okay. Good teams are led by Kentucky guards. Okay. That's what it
Yeah.
is.
Okay.
So the Kings look really good. Sabonis is the real deal. I mean, that guy is a baller. I really like, again, a Kentucky guy, Malik Monk, but he is a microwave. Okay, and we saw it the other day when he put up 45. He's no joke. Okay, the Kings have a really good team. Keegan Murray, I mean, he really impressed in college. He's continued to impress in the NBA. He's, kind of hit that rookie wall, but that's to be expected. I still really like what I see out of him. And the stadium is beautiful. If you ever have an opportunity to go out there, it's incredible. We were really close, like almost courtside, so you
Mm.
can see the players up close. Actually got to meet Luca and Matt Barnes after the game completely randomly as they were moving through the hotel we were in. So
Oh, you saw Luca
again,
too.
oh yeah, it was. And
I
let me
didn't
tell
know
you,
that.
when you see Luca on TV, you don't appreciate how big that man is. That dude is a Slovenian grizzly bear. Okay, that man is massive. Okay, I'm serious. Like he stepped out of that elevator looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's huge. Like he is. He seriously is like easily probably 6'9".
He's a mountain man.
Easily. Yeah, he's a big dude, man. I mean, crazy, crazy. But yeah, it was a great experience. Sacramento's a beautiful place. I definitely recommend it. Good food, good people, and not that expensive in California. So, but
Mhm.
keep that a secret.
I love Sacramento. I think I told you I was there last summer. I've got some family friends out there, and I didn't
Hmm.
get to see a game, but I went into the team store and was asking around and just seeing what the word on the team was. And honestly, there wasn't much buzz last summer. And that's the biggest surprise to anyone that the Kings have kind of come out of nowhere and put this team together. And, I got to give a shout out to my man, Red Velvet, Kevin Herter, one of the
Oh
best
yes,
nicknames in sports with the headband. I mean, I just love what they got going out there. And the Kings are a team that they're like the Buffalo Bills. Like you can't hate them. I mean, the franchise has, you could say, been cursed, and they're just a team that's lovable. And I can't wait to see what they do in the playoffs. I mean, they would, like I said, they'd play the Timberwolves if the playoffs started today, but I don't know. We'll see. They're definitely probably a few years away, but I hope to see them make some noise this year in this year's playoffs.
likewise. I think that they will. I think that they will.
Okay. And the last thing I had, and we'll wrap up here because it says we got less than 10 minutes left on my not premium Zoom app, but the Clippers. So the Clippers were a lot of people's pick to maybe go to the finals or win the finals. And whether it's been load management, injuries, signing Russell Westbrook. I
There
mean,
it is.
I mean, don't know what's going on with the Clippers. I haven't been, excuse me, on the bandwagon, but what were your thoughts on them quickly before the season and currently?
Before the season, when healthy, NBA title contender, possibly best defensive team in the NBA.
Hmm.
During the season and currently, well, let me say during the season pre Russell Westbrook. Wow, is Kawhi actually healthy? Wow, is Norman Powell like a real guy? Like I was like Zubac, consistent, steady, always dependable. Like, but they had to figure out their point guard situation. Was it
Mm-hmm.
going to be Fred Van Vliet? Was it going to be Kyrie Irving? Who was it going to be? And then we find out it's Russell Westbrook.
Your
The
favorite.
problem, the problem across the hall is now in your front yard. I don't I don't know. I don't know what to think. I don't know why they did that. I know why Russ went there because he didn't really ever want to leave LA. So it makes sense for him, but
He's an LA kid. He wants to stay home.
he is. He wants to stay, and I think that unfortunately the Clippers will probably go out and they will re-sign him this offseason for some kind of veteran minimum, and he will fade into the sunset of South Central LA like he's always dreamed of. But the issue is that he's just not a good fit. Like who he is right now is the Russell Westbrook he used to be, just worse. He's got to reprogram his mentality as far as his modern NBA game goes if he wants to continue to be in the NBA. Because who he is now is not a valuable player, unfortunately.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, with Kawhi and Paul George healthy, I mean, you can't count those guys out. But at the
No.
same time, the longer they stay out, the more their seed drops, and then they got a tougher first round matchup. So we'll see what happens with the Clippers. They're in the 8th spot right now, so they'd be playing the Nuggets, and I think that'd be close to a sweep, I'd say. But who knows what'll happen? We got just a few minutes left, David. Appreciate you again coming on the very first episode. So I want to end the conversations with Cal with just like one thing that's on your mind or one thing that you've seen recently or people are talking about, and just want to pick your brain. What's one thing that's going on? Could be inside the NBA world, outside. What's something that you've been thinking about lately?
Well, I'm sure this isn't news to anybody because everybody's already seen the news, but can we just quickly talk about the Murdaughs? That family is crazy, messed up, sick, and everything in between. Can we get some justice for Steven? Where's Buster? Okay. Where is Buster? Maybe we contact Dave and see if Dave's seen Buster because Buster has just been MIA. We know he was in the casino. Okay. Could somebody
Mm.
go pick up this man? Like, this is crazy to me. This is crazy. And apparently the dad has never heard of a recorded phone call because he is just saying everything in prison. But where's the money? Where's the money, Alec? 10 million in opioids, you wouldn't be here. Where's it at?
Yikes. So I actually just watched that last night because I'm not really on the internet like most people our age. So I don't I get missed with a lot of stuff, but watched the full thing, binged it last night, and I'm just fascinated, man. I haven't seen something this fascinating since probably Firefest, and that was like 5 years ago. So That shows you how much TV I watch. But yeah, the Murdaugh family, South Carolina Southern Scandal, that's been a treat. So if you haven't seen it, go ahead and watch that on Netflix, and maybe we could do an episode on that itself. So I
Yes, please.
want to say thank you for coming on. I'll go ahead and hit the stop record button, and then we can chat for a little bit after. But again, David Bracey tuning in from St. Louis, Missouri. We want to say thank you and appreciate your time.
Much love.